Good Sunday, everyone. Blessed be. What's the other one they say? In his eye. I don't know, all that stuff from Handmaid's Tale. Great show, by the way. This Thursday is Veterans Day, so the banks will be closed. And get the veteran in your life or veterans in your life something they can really use, like I don't know, like a 1 month or even a 1 year subscription to Pornhub, something like that. Dude, I remember there's so much fucking going on. Like I had to turn down lots of pussy. On second guess, I was like, because I was fighting with Sherry anyway, I should have went out and scrogged a bunch of chicks because they were all clean. Like, you know, you could eat it and just fucking do whatever. And it was rad. And then, you know, everybody goes about their business. No feelings, no nothing. You just like that little wink when you see each other like in formation or something like that. You're like, all right, we'll do it again. We'll scrog again. So Sherry's shaking her head. I guess she disagrees with that point of view.
You wouldn't have been married for long.
Mama! So this is 1994 WCES. I was like, what is WCES? And I guess there used to be a Western and an Eastern CES before the whole Vegas. And I'm sure it was in Vegas. So, but yeah, yeah. The first one we went to was in 98 with Rich Shockley. That's when we went to Vegas all together, and I had the flu. Yeah, it's not fun, but I got to meet Minka again. So, Minka, the world's largest world's bustiest Asian. I'll put a link to her in the description. So, oh yeah, somebody was also asking. They're like, I mean, really, just general Bolt-Ons is really my. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I just, maybe it's because my kids are going to, like, when I was born, I was like, what was it, 10 and a half?
10.5 pounds.
Yeah, 10 and a half fucking pound baby. That's a huge turkey. And, I don't, maybe I just needed a lot of milk. So maybe that's what, my genetics are saying. They're saying, hey, Patrick, if you're going to have a baby with any of these girls, make sure they got big tits because they're going to need lots of milk. So I don't know. I'm sure Jordan Peterson has some sort of research on that shit. There you go. That's the one I remember with the rat. Reaction has been favorable. I don't like this base you're making. There you go. Sound stream just with the frame. What are they showing the frame for? That's old PA frame. But that's all there was back then. For the idea for an audio company to pay tooling, or like a car audio company. Car audio has always been like the shitty second retarded cousin, and in audio. And it wasn't until the 90s that they really started making some dollars, and it's like you can't argue with that money. So this is the original APX. Wizane's creation. Wayne Harris. For those that don't know. See, piled driver. Adcom amps. Jason, post me pictures on those. You were recapping one of those. Those are fucking great amps. Really rock solid. Really well built. Let's see. Death. Death. Death Sound USA. Out of Hermosa Beach. Sounds like a side project from somebody from LA Sounds. That happens a lot. So somebody wants a raise and then they're like, well, your job doesn't really qualify as a raise. You're kind of maxed out. And they're like, fuck you. I know where you get your shit. I'm going to go order my own stuff. And then they get a bank loan, start a LLC, and then they get a loan out for like 10 or 15. And then they go order some shit. There it is, the NRT. Oh no, this is the AVI version. My bad. Neo, radial, blah, 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 blah. Piece of dookie. WCES, Faxon, blah, 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 blah. Yep, Las Vegas. There you go. It was so tiny back then. Oh my God, it was so tiny. And of course, if you ever go, they have the porn convention at the same time. I don't think they do the awards shows. It's more of the convention. But of course, that's to take access to yeah, again, you're looking at your target audience, which is males from, I think you got to be 18, whatever, 18 to 45. That's, your prime sperm production years and when you're still looking to make a baby. So again, this is, if anybody gets offended by that, I'm sorry you don't like facts. So I remember doing stand-up one time, and I told a story from my childhood, probably the one where I lose my virginity to my dad's girlfriend. And somebody got offended. They came up to me after the show and they're like, I didn't appreciate that. Blah, 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 blah. That's underage sex. I was like, that was my life, you dummy. Like, that really happened. And it was awesome. Oh, I got one of these. I took it all apart and I took a bunch of pictures for the amp guts. But if anybody wants it, let me know. Pretty basic design, full range, Class D. One of the first to ever hit the market for car audio. So, but this is when BMG decided to make a run for it. And I got some good CDs out of them too. See, there's Aerosmith. Look at that. Get a grip. Talking about a baby on a tit. Oh, look at this clean motherfucker. 2, sales and marketing from engineering topic, A1200 power amp, blah, 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 blah. See, again, I was just by the Cotton Center the other day when I went to recoil. That does not exist anymore, so. Project Goat. Design concept. 100 amp maxi fuse, blade fuse, whatever. Output, blah, 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 blah. Heatsink, Carolyn Young. Good job. Project Deadline, 1994. They did it. They made it. And we got plugs for them. Black ones, anyway. They also made white ones. But the problem is you got to do a minimum order quantity of 10,000 pieces. It's a little too much for me. So just spray paint them. And presto, now you got white. And that's called whitewashing, right? That's what white people do to history. Whitewashing. Love those things. That's PA1. Yeah. IndyCar. Love those punch amps. The OEQ1, very nice. Prone to scratchy pots though, because there was a lot of potentiometers on that motherfucker. Hot setup. Hot setup. Taking vehicle security into your home. Yeah, that was the other cool thing to do is before, what was it? What's that thing called? It's not called Chime. That stupid one from Nest. Whatever, it's the automated doorbell. It's the dumbest thing in the world. It's like $200 for a fucking camera on your door. So back in the old days, we used to use car alarms for home security. And you can use the chirper to activate anything you want. Raise your garage door, open your door lock. It had code jumping. What else? And then, you had multiple buttons on there. And if you pressed them like twice or whatever, you could program it to do all kinds of cool shit. And then again, the whole thing ran off 12 volts, which is what you would run a backup security system off anyway. So again, use your imagination, guys. Don't let Google get you buying those stupid cameras that don't do shit. It's like, when somebody just comes up and smashes that thing, it's like, fuck, that's $250 fucking dollars. There you go. Volcano. That's Jeffrey. Jeffrey Flowers. Let's see. They talk about him. Stanford Acoustics in Danville. Yep. So, and I only met Jeff through a common importer who I'm spacing out on his name, DFS Sales. David, I think his name was. And I had imported my first caps through him, and he did some other stuff. And he had, oh my God, I can't even remember. It was Napalm. I forget the name of the brand, but one of the woofers was a Napalm. And it's like, they weren't terrible, but they just would, it was like unheard of, and they were a little crazy. And they actually were pretty good. And I got to post them on eBay, which I'm surprised they didn't just do. And I got a lot of shit for it because they were like, "What are you doing? This was..." People were fighting over, who said what about being able to sell them. And but they gave me the batter up, and I was like, let me see if I can knock out a home run. So, but Jeff ended up getting the dibs on those, and then he sold them out. And then, but as a consolation prize, and he was very, very nice about it. He's like, dude, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go do something else. And so he's like, hey, you want to buy the magnetizer and a bunch of other equipment? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, how much? And then, so it was like 10 grand. And he let me make payments. So, and like every week I would send him like $500 or something like that. And I finally got it whittled down. And then it was like another 2 or 3 grand to ship everything. And Blue Thunder. Better be MTX. Nope, PPI. There you go. There's the fancy one. Programmable. So, yep. And there's, I did the same thing with Concept. So, I forget the guy's name that clued me into it, but he started selling onesie twosies on eBay. And I was like, dude, where are you getting these? And he was kind of weird. I think he's autistic. I'm not sure now, but he acts like he's hot shit. And I was like, you're not. But he knew about a deal, and I went to go see him. I drove all the way to Cali, and I went to go see Concept, and I met the son-in-law that was managing it. And I've seen this video before. It always ends with jizz. But yeah, they were going to scrap it. They were going to get probably 40 grand for scrap. And I was like, dude, I'll give you 50. And he's like, okay. And then he's like, do you have it? And I tried to raise money. I tried to get loans. I asked everybody, and nobody was like, it was like the hen making bread. And so I said, hey, can you finance me? And he's like, yeah, if you give me a nice big down payment. And I was like, okay. And so he's like, what can you come up with? And I was able to come up with 13. So I gave him 13 down, and then started making the payments. And then they raised my rent here $1,000, and we had Everly at the time, and it was very stressful. And that's when I have started working and have not stopped. But Ed Lou of Concept was able to work out a payment plan with me, and then even last year he gave me a haircut, which is a term for taking. If you pay the loan off early, they give you a discount. So he gave me a haircut, and he's like, hey, if you can do $250 a week, then awesome. And I was like, get signed up on Cash App. And so then I'd send him Cash App, and he was like, this is good. So, and I finally just got finished paying him. So, and of course I wish all this stuff was mine, but it's not. It belongs to Robot. Well, actually it belongs to the church, but Robot is the one that manages it, and I manage Robot. See, nobody owns Robot. You can't own an organization like that. It's meant for the benefit of the members, right? And when you guys support us, we consider you a member. Even though if like you come in, we got to get your ID and put you in the system and all that stuff. So like if you do get in the apprentice program. Yep, that's what it used to look like, packed. So, and then like the booths that were nice would lay down carpet with padding and all this other stuff. And there, it's kind of dumb to go now, especially like because of online. This was all before the internet, guys. Now you can even, what was good about when I went, the couple of times that I went was when I met with Chinese vendors. So that's when I met Alice from XY. And I also met somebody, what's her name? Fanny from Maiden. Maiden does some of the best tinsel leads over there. And so of course now dude, everybody does good tinsel leads. And then, they all just source it out from whoever. So everybody shares a secret. There's nothing proprietary over in China. So, or if there is, it's very, very rare. And it's because, they'll cut your fucking fingers off if you copy it or something like that. It's like that. It's like the whole government is just mobbed out. Our government's the same way. So, because we were thinking about it, like that story I told you the other day about the. So okay, so the federal government has issued franchises for each state, and there's a representation system and all that stuff, and that's what Congress is. And then the sub franchises are corporations within the state, and so that's how they control everything. And the uniform, was it? It's not Uniform Code of Justice. I think it's I forget what it is, but it's like USC. Anyways, it's the United Commercial Code, if I remember right, UCC. So the United Commercial Code basically gives specs and guidelines, rules for doing commerce. The problem is that if it's private, it's not commerce. But if the feds want to get you for anything, really, literally anything, they just say, you did business, blah, 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 or you bought something or whatever. And which infers that they own everything and you're just sort of leasing it, which is really creepy. But, mostly they don't flex that hard. Mostly it's just, like how the CIA is like still flexing on drugs and stuff like that. It's because that's their territory, and it's like, fucking move on, just move on to the opium or whatever. Is this the Oh, that is the PS100. So I got two of those from the auction. Yeah, one was beat up, one was brand new in the box. I flipped those pretty quick. It's just 100 amp. It is a linear power supply, but it does have variable voltage and current. And again, this was before switching power supplies really became popular. You can get 1,000 amp switcher supply now, and again has variable voltage and current, as well as a digital readout, so you can monitor that shit. They're very expensive. It's like probably, I don't know, I don't even want to price it. So, but I think we have a 250 amp switcher, but it uses 3-phase, and then if you just use 2-phase, it's only like 200 amp or 220 amp. Again, as much as you guys like amp dynos, those amp dynos really aren't real world. And it's kind of weird to test them like that. Especially because Tony DeMore, he's the one that, I don't want to say invented, but packaged all that stuff together in one package for the amp dyno. And I remember Rockford used to brag that they would test their amps with a inductor capacitor, which is a reactive load. And they would brag about that because they have these big banks, these big cabinets that they would test their punch amps and stuff like that on. And there was, just quality control and anything like that. But, the best way is to really test them with woofers. I mean, it doesn't have to be expensive woofers, but like cheap woofers to gauge how well the amp does with back EMF and things like that. Because when you send a really beefy woofer, out, zing, and then the suspension brings it back, zong, it sends back a big EMF charge, and the amp has to be able to overcome that and all that kind of other stuff. So, but Tony's machine just uses resistors. So, again, it's the cheapest and most compact way to test an amplifier, at least to get an idea of what it does, of what it actually does in something that fits on a benchtop. Otherwise, you need this huge bank of capacitors and inductors and what else? Or what MTX did. My buddy Arthur, I'll put a link to him in the description of some of the videos that he did for MTX. He used to have a whole room of just like the Road Thunder 12s, all in boxes, and you could wire it for whatever impedance load you want, and then the way they would test stuff, they would get a sample from the factory. This is a Chinese factory, not from the local factory. They would just turn all the knobs to the right because that's what idiots do. And so it's to simulate idiots. And if the piece of equipment passed, then it was good enough for MTX. And if you guys remember, there was this little amp, I think it was a Class AB, I want to say a TFA 250, but it was fused for 60 amps, and then it had two 250 watt subs in a sealed box. And it was only $200. And they sold a ton of those. And then again, that woofer was from Boss, not Boss Group that from Boss, but Boss over in China. It was just one of their house woofers, and they're like, okay, put the dust cap on it with MTX, and then same with the amp. The amp was just, you know, an amp that they made, and it was a really great system, and they put it all together, and they sold 1 million of them. So, but there's that. What that tells you is that there's hope for you in putting together packages. Sometimes it's timing, sometimes it's something else, you know, for your success. And you got to remember that a lot of this has to do with right time and right place. You know, when I think back to all the deals that I did, that I came across, a lot of it was this right time, right place. The way that I got started was doing garage sales. I would do these massive garage sales where I would go steal OSB from a construction site, and then I would just use it to spray paint car audio and then a big arrow. And I would scoop everybody from like a good 3 mile. Again, this was before internet, so you ads only, if you put an ad in the penny saver, it'd only bring like old people because only old people read. So there you go, volcano. And so that's how I met. Was it Cheryl? Anthony Puma's mom?
I think that's her name, yeah.
Yeah. So Cheryl happened to be one of the accountants at ADST, which was the parent company to Orion. So, but mostly they were just called themselves Orion. And her boyfriend came across me and he like quizzed me a little bit. He's like, "Oh, this guy knows something." I was like, "Yep." And so when Orion moved to their final resting place over there on McKinney, when they were over there on Julian, they just little stupid ads. There you go. There's the IMPP cone. Again, we have those if you guys want them. When they moved, they left a whole bunch of Bandpass boxes, the teardrop ones that they use for the Cobalt series and XTR. And she's like, they're not even going to collect them. They were just leaving them for the landlord. And she's like, tell you what, how about you sell them and we split it 50-50? I was like, sure. So I did a good job. I moved everything and gave her her cut. And she's like, oh, you're trustworthy and loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, babe, clean and reverent. And I was like, yes, I am. And so that led to other deals. And so when ADST acquired PPI, guess who got a tip? Me. And so I went over to the dumpster and we scooped out, gosh, how many carloads? Must have been about 8 carloads.
Something like that.
And I had this huge old 70s car that I filled. And then I went home and tested them. And it was the PPI Chinese series. I forget what it was called, but it was like just a polycone and a stamped steel frame. And I'd made like little minor repairs. There was little things that were defects and things like that would come back. And then I went to the swap meet and troubleshoot teaser. What is the crossover slope and point? So just by looking at it, what slope is that crossover? My guess is a 12 dB slope with a Zobel. There you go. Which the Zobel is kind of bullshit. So just so you know. But so then we went to swap meet and I didn't even make it past noon before I sold everything out. And I probably sold it to some like Rabati and Sons guys that they were like curious about why they weren't getting any foot traffic. And that's because everybody was at my little spot. And dude, I ended up selling them for like $20-$25 each, which was super cheap, cheap enough to wholesale. And then I walked away with like $2,000. It's fucking great. $2,500 in one morning. So I was like, okay, this is fun. I can do this some more. And so we kept going back and dumpster diving. And it's not just stereo stuff too that you find in these dumpsters or in, when they're cleaning out a building. I mean, just in acoustic ceiling tiles. They threw out tons of those, and those are regular people buy those, So and then you just sell it on Craigslist or whatever, and what is that? Conversion syndrome. I don't know. I'm more into the story I'm telling you guys. Travis Weeks. You guys know Travis Weeks? Track him down. See how he's doing. Because this episode is almost over. Warning, PG-40, pretty good under 40.
Price is
And then, of course, the SAS euphonic series, all these speakers. So, let's see. So we got that tip. And, but yeah, just, God, I remember my leg got crushed because it was a stack of plexiglass that was used for the bottoms of the PPI amps. And I didn't even think about selling it as a part. Before that, I wasn't even selling on eBay. I was just selling locally. And it wasn't until the Orion auction that I was dumpster diving. And what they would do is, like, if an amp came in for service or repair, they would throw away the box that it came in. And of course, they're not going to send back the used plugs that, you know, the amp came with. They would give you a new set of plugs. And that's what you pay for when you're, you know, paying $200 for a repair on something they just do a board swap on. They would keep the heatsink, but they would just swap the board with one that they had previously repaired, or sometimes a new board, depending on whatever was cheaper. So, but I used to dumpster dive on the Fridays, and again, that's how I found out about the auction. And then I went back and, you know, like I said, I left the house willing to spend $500, and then I found out they took credit cards, and I spent $5,000, and then luckily I got that job in the Bay Area, which paid off all my credit cards, and I came home to literally a house full of stuff, and then just began selling on eBay. And all I would do is, the best thing that I can recommend if you want to do something like that, or if you want to start doing that, is do your research on the pricing. So one of the things that we had was these little mini XLRs, okay, which they used in the marbled XTR amps and also the NT series. And it's just a balanced cable, but it was like a mini XLR. And so they came from Professional Audio, and they're very hard to solder, very tiny. But there was only like one company that sold them, and they were kind of expensive. They were $6 to $7 each for this little tiny connector. And so I remember I was feeling generous, and somebody, I think it was, I can't remember now. I think it was PAP, those guys up there, Pierce Audio Products. And they were like, how much for 10 or whatever? And I was like, how's whatever? I think it was like, he's like, how about if I send you $100? And then I sent him a whole box of like 100 pieces. And he was like, dude, this is a lot of money. Like, this is really generous of you. I was like, thank you. Well, you know, I didn't do very many of those before I realized that was stupid. And so really what you want to do is just do your pricing research, and then price 10 to 15% below what market is paying. Because typically what happens is when somebody posts something up there, they're not actually they're not selling those at that price. That's typical. Typically what happens is it sits on there, and it's just a good benchmark to figure out the value of other things. So, and of course, before the internet, there used to be Orion Blue Book, which I'll do a video on that too to show you guys. But Orion Blue Book was really the only way before internet and before eBay was really established, to determine the value of something. Because there was at the time, there was so much information that was not available. And so some toothless motherfucker walks into a pawn shop with an Eclipse amplifier, and you're like, how's $50? And then the worst that he's going to say is no. But if he needs that $50, then the dude's getting it for $50. And then the pawn shop owner typically does not care. All he cares is that he doubles his money. So then sometimes you'll see it posted for like, say, 200, which is still below market. And then if you go in there and make an offer, you go, hey, I'll give you $100. Depending on his mood, sometimes, if you catch him on the right day, or sometimes at the end of the month or whatever, when, he's got to cover rent, you can get it for $100 because he's only got $50 into it. See? So, and that kind of pricing is everywhere, but it's not available at like Best Buy and Target and Walmart. So it's funny though, sometimes foreigners will go into places like that and they'll try to haggle, and it's like, welcome to America, bud. You want to go to the swap meet to do that kind of shit, or, a pawn shop or something like that. And, again, the same thing is in your favor. The worst thing that they're going to say is no. Now, after saying that, when I encounter people on OfferUp and they give a lowball offer, typically I sometimes I don't even answer because I'm like, no. And I have that, I have that Rockford dual 6.5-inch enclosure posted on OfferUp. Is it OfferUp or I don't know, one of those, or Marketplace. And I got a poster for $40, which I know is already a good deal for somebody. And but I hit up my buddy at Rockford, and he's like, I'll ask about what vehicle that's specifically for, because it's a molded ABS enclosure, and I'm sure Nissan sells it for like $1,000, $800, with two woofers in it. And you don't have to use it for woofers. You can use it for something else. If you want to put like two beefy coaxials in there, that's another way to do it, and then you just run them full range. Again, at this point, it's just an enclosure. It's not necessarily for Nissan Juke or Nissan Titan or whatever it's for. So, but once I find out the specifics on it, again, market research, and you find out what you have, just price it below market. So if Nissan sells it for $600, then you're like, well, I'll put some better woofers in there and sell it for like $300 or $400. Now, the problem is the chances of finding a buyer at that point, it really narrows your market. And so, and typically people that are willing to pay that much for something like that will buy it only from the dealer because they can put it on a credit card, or they have more money than time, or they don't know any better. I don't want to call them dumb. I just want to call them naive, and they also don't want to fool with anything. So, because, sometimes buying stuff off of Craigslist and OfferUp and Facebook is dangerous. So that's one of the reasons why I don't really do it anymore, but we used to do, when I was like open 7 days a week, I would do free testing, and you could meet people here also to kind of promote, what I was doing and everything like that. But you could meet people here, and then I would test it for you for free. And then that way, the amp works or the sub works, or, it doesn't work, and it. So otherwise, people are meeting at fucking gas stations, getting stabbed and shot and all this kind of shit, and then robbed. And it's just terrible. It's horrible. And there's not, of course, the city doesn't make any money, so they don't give a shit, even though it would be a really great idea for them to create some sort of public space, or even like not quite a flea market, but just some sort of public space where people can interact and exchange things without fear of, getting robbed and things like that. Again, those are really great ideas, and those ideas actually exist in other places like Denmark, Sweden, some places of Europe, things like that. But here, because of the greed and the corruption, it doesn't happen. And they act like you're an enemy of the state because you're not giving them a cut, which is really creepy. So I'll end with this, which was a story. We got some U-Haul trucks out front, and the city patrols the area. And actually my landlord got a letter from the city tax collector saying, hey, we don't have any licenses issued to that address. You need to get in line. And so he sent me a copy of the letter, and I checked it out, and I ended up calling the guy, and I of course recorded the conversation. So, but he was a typical creepy lowlife. He says, you should really get a business license, or how do we call it, TPT, which is a transaction privilege certificate, or what is TPT? I forget what the last T stands for. But anyway, and I said, well, that's a license, and he goes, well, yeah. And I said, well, a license is a permit to do something that would otherwise be illegal. And I go, am I doing anything illegal? Silence. So, and he doesn't want to say yes or no, because otherwise that would make him liable for a couple things, which is legal advice. And the other one is it would either make him a liar or he would have to tell the truth, which he's not going to tell the truth because he wants money. And it's creepy to know that your government treats you like that, treats everyone like that. It's not just me, treats everyone like that. So I said, if I'm doing something illegal, then you need to let me know. But if I'm not, and you don't have a case, and you don't have a warrant, fuck off. So, and he didn't like that part too much. So, and Maya L doesn't like that part either when I curse, when I say the curse words. So, I got stewed tomatoes waiting for me. Look at this. Oh my God, it's so delicious. The garlic, the onions, the bacon. Sherry does it over rice. I always have her put chicken in mine because I feel like there's not enough protein in there. Well, I know you put protein. You put chicken in mine. I don't think you put. And then you butter up a biscuit, and it is delicious. That is from the South. And then you cover it in country gravy, right? Both white and brown. She's looking at me like, you're an asshole. So yes, I am. I love you. I'm an asshole. I love you. That is the meat and potatoes of DNA converters, which nobody gives a shit about. February 1994, Auto Sound and Security in the books. I love you guys. Have a great week.